join in, do you mind just making a comment with well, your name and kind of where you're from within town or from within the country? That would be great. Oh, perfect. You have Costa Rica, Toronto. Perfect. Keep it going.
Chatham, Chicago. Hello, Christina. Amy from Montreal. Fun. Oh, Amsterdam. One of my favorite holidays.
Nice.
David.
Okay, we've got people from all over the world joining us.
Yeah, beautiful.
Hey, the more the merrier. So, and this is actually helpful, right? As I think all of us will be talking, want to tone in how much of it we want to make local versus global versus national. So keep them coming if you don't mind. Just getting your name and city and country for that matter. We have quite a bit of international audience. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So we're going to get started in about a minute or two. So just keep the names of the city you're coming in from. We would love to know that. Okay, we have quite a good number on board. See some of the cities, great.
Beautiful.
Williamsburg, I see that. Brantford, Waterloo, Ontario, Ottawa, Ajax. We have quite a few. Toronto in the house, Niagara. Awesome. Thank you everybody for joining. Welcome to today's session. It's really great to have you on board. We're so excited to be doing this webinar today. You know, we ourselves are pivoting in the new normal. So thank you for joining us and doing this with us. You know, my name is Yvonne Ruke Akpoveta. I will be the moderator for today's session. I am a change management strategist, and I'm also the founder of the Change Leadership. The Change Leadership has really been set up for a time like this. Our focus is really helping professionals, leaders, and organizations to lead and navigate change in today's disruptive times. And what more disruptive time do we have than the pandemic? That has really disrupted things. We've had conferences and master classes in the past, which has really been around the disruption that the fourth industrial revolution, AI, robotics, and all of that is impacting on how we lead and respond to those types of changes. And now, plus the pandemic, all of that has been accelerated, and we're going to be talking about that today. And thank you for all of the questions you sent in. We received over 120 questions. So thank you for that. And what we've done today is design those questions into the questions that we're going to be asking the panelists. So if you have any question that you don't feel has been covered today, you will have the opportunity in the Q&A section to ask those questions. So use the Q&A button that you see down on your screen, ask those questions, and we will make sure we try and get to it. At least pick about the top 3. So if you see somebody asks a question you like, just use the upvote button and upvote it, so we know that's the question we should at least answer. And you know what? Use the hashtag. Feel free to post on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Use the hashtag Change Conversations, tag the Change Leadership page, and we will look at those, retweet it, answer any questions that you have. We are live streaming on Facebook. It's our first time live streaming on Facebook, and you can go to our Facebook Change Leadership page and you can share that, or maybe not share, because I may have made an error in the title when posting it, so I will check that out. And I'd like to say a big thank you to our panelists. You guys have been great in supporting this webinar and helping to co-create this webinar. as far as introductions, I'm going to start off with Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So I'll introduce Jennifer to you. She's the CEO and executive coach of Hazel and Collins Associates. She's a certified executive coach. She's passionate about helping leaders navigate in this new normal by leveraging their strengths to create change. She's passionate about inspiring leaders. So that's something we have in common, just passionate about inspiring leaders. So also inspire other people. So it's not just about the leaders, but it's the inspiration that she does for the leaders that helps them inspire others, and the world just goes round. She's a culture and leadership strategist at heart. She understands how to assess the landscape of organizations to design a plan that aligns with people. So excited to have her on board today, and we're going to be talking leadership and landscape, a new normal. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
And we have Mohammed Chahdi. He's not new to the change leadership, and I will get him to talk a little bit more. He's been the inspiration behind us having this webinar. He is a global HR leader in a Fortune 50 company. He's the head of America's HR operations services for Dell Technologies. He has over 20 years experience. He's been leading his company's global remote work program. So that's something that would be great to talk about. I remember when I did the interview, the webcast series that we had, just roundabout when all of this happened in April. And, you know, we spoke about values being important. So he's going to speak about how companies are approaching, attracting, developing, and retaining talent. Hi, Mohammed. I call him Mo.
Exactly, and you can do that. And thanks, Yvonne. It's interesting when you make the introduction. I'm like, who's she talking about? Thrilled to be here. Thrilled to be here.
Thank you for being part of this. And the next person we have is Maria Avenitis, and she's an executive for recruitment solution sales. She has been in the recruitment space, helping recruit talent. She works with COOs, VPs of HR, local operations, and she brings that unique perspective that each of them may have in an organization when it comes to talent challenges for organizations. And Maria herself has faced the challenge of re-entering the workforce herself after layoff and extended PTO and during times of recession. So it would be great to really hear her unique perspective on presenting talent value and proposition, having worked with so many companies and candidates looking for an alignment and fit in an organization. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you so much. It's a thrill to be here. I'm happy to contribute all of my wisdom.
Thanks. We have such a great panel on board today to cover different topics that we've received. So excited to go in and get started. Before I get started, I want the audience to get to know you guys a little bit. So I'm going to start with Jennifer.
Oh, good.
And I want to ask you more of a personal question.
Sure.
So what would you consider to be your favorite indulgence right now in the whole of the pandemic, social distancing, new normal?
My biggest indulgence. That's an interesting question. I think that the thing that I'm indulging in the most, okay, admittedly, it's going to be a bit of, I hate to say this, but trashy TV on Netflix. I've gotten into watching some of those shows in the evening that are kind of lighthearted and take your mind out of it. So yeah, I would definitely say Netflix has been my indulgence.
Netflix, you're not alone. I don't know if you saw the stats. They've had over 10 million new subscribers since the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Okay, it makes me feel
So
better.
you're not alone. You're not alone there. Maria, what about you? What has been your favorite indulgence or your indulgence in this past few months?
When you asked Jennifer, I knew my answer right away. It's ice cream.
Ice cream.
This has been my favorite indulgence. I tried to avoid it. I'm not always successful, but it's there in the fridge, and I've discovered new flavors. fantastic. You know, I used to be Praline and Cream girl. I'm now, you know, a little bit more Rocky Roadish. You know, very fitting given the time. Actually, very fitting given the, you know, the pandemic and the rocky road we're on. But you know, it's all
You know, I see Mo shaking his head. So Mo, tell us, what's been yours? Is it the opposite of ice cream and you're working out, using the weights,
No,
all of that?
no, I think one thing we need to do in this call is keep it real, right? So
Yeah.
none of the above. I have 2 kids.
Okay.
And my indulgence is literally just quiet time when they go to bed. It's the idea of being able to sit down and chill, for lack of a better word. I don't care about TV or anything, just the ability of literally not having to change diapers. I found out a lot. 2 years ago, you would have asked me, you would have a different answer.
And that's interesting. I don't have any kids, but my favorite indulgence is go outside to my patio, just sit on the lounge here like 6:30 a.m. in the morning and just do nothing. You know, I could have my cup of coffee, but I'm trying to go off coffee. So I just sit down and just take in the quietness of everything. There's nothing chasing me in the house. I can find peace inside the house, but just being on the patio, just watching people go across with their dogs and the wind blowing on the trees is just awesome. That's my favorite indulgence. I'm not trying to get on the GO train or hit the 401 before and for people outside of Canada, for the 401 is a major express road or highway. I'm not trying to hit that before 6:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning. So that's been my favorite. So great to hear what you guys are doing. And you know what, guys, would love to hear what your favorite indulgence is, what you've been doing differently. Just put it in the chat box. Would love to read about that and get to know you. So my very first question is going to go to Mo, and it's going to be set in I want to know a little bit, one of the big questions we had was around the new normal. So I want to get Mo to help with that. I'm going to share my screen.
And Maria, as you're going into, I think there's a feedback about your voice not being clear. If you can.
Yeah, I'm going to try to fix that. I think I'll just sit closer to my computer now. Let me know if that's better.
All right.
Yeah, a little bit better.
Fantastic.
Okay, awesome. So the first question we have is, what does the new normal mean? And what does it mean for you right now? So I'm going to start with you, Mo. And I want to start really with why you decided for us to do this. You came to me with the idea when I was at a place where I was thinking, what can we do for our community? We just don't want to do a webinar. We just don't want to do a discussion. We want to do something that is really going to be of impact. So the minute you said, Yvonne, let's do this, you shared the idea of what you were thinking, I said, that's it. So why did you decide for us, or why did you reach out to me to say, let's do this? And what is a new normal? Because some people don't even like that terminology. They're like, what's this word new normal? Is there really a new normal? And what does it mean for us, to you? So share with us.
Certainly. First of all, I don't think I need to explain or emphasize kind of what this situation we all are in means. I think the somewhat optimistic view of the world we all had in the last couple of months made us all believe that this is all going to go away in a week, in a month, in 2 months. While that is good, I think the downside of that is it kind of made some of us pretend that things are okay on the surface. And that's fine. I think we all need a little bit of pretending here and there. Candidly, as we were going ahead, what I kept kind of thinking about when you see some of the signs, unemployment numbers going up, just businesses basically not being able to hit the bottom line, and you hear the news, and the news is not something that's out there very remote from us, right? It's not like a different part of the world where, while it's unfortunate, you're like, yeah, but I can go on with my day as I used to and go ahead. This was not one of it. This is definitely one of the things that hits all of us in some form or fashion. Friends, colleagues, people regardless of country. I think all of us look for ways to help. And candidly, again, the idea is not really coming from me. It's for people who just genuinely kept reaching out, whether on LinkedIn or other social media, just asking for help. Hey, I've been fired. What do you think? Is it the end of my career, period? So that's kind of where the whole idea of let's do something that is a little different. I think we all do a lot of things that are seem to be geared toward companies and businesses. We talk about the future. We talk about insight. We talk about how the macroeconomics may be moving in one way or the other. I wanted us to focus a little bit on the individuals who are actually being impacted. The people who lost their job, the people who are in that situation, whether it's a 20 years career or a 2 years career, and suddenly they don't have a job anymore. And I think that's, it was really nice to hear Yvonne respond with just saying, absolutely, heard you, been thinking about it, let's do something. Obviously, Jennifer and Marie, I couldn't thank you enough just jumping in. If you take anything out of this conversation, this will be my ask is just pass it on. Right. So hopefully this gives you anything, this gives you something, even if it's a way to think about the situation where you are differently, regardless again of the range of impact you may be enduring. My ask is just pass it on. Just push it to someone else, help. Sometimes it's a 5 minutes conversation while you're, lining up for groceries now, as we all do. Sometimes it's an hour or a half hour to help someone put their resume together. And this is how we all can come out of this stronger and even better, right? So that's kind of where all this came from. Do you want me to touch on the new normal question, Yvonne, or do you want to comment or ask any more questions? All right, let me touch on the new normal thing, right? So what's interesting with this new normal conversation is I think everybody, likes to label things. And again, a lot of this is really my personal opinion and experience versus kind of any position of where we are from an industry perspective. I think the reality is none of us really have a clue of what this means, to be candid, right? So we know there are a lot of things that fell down in terms of social norms, social standards, business standards for that matter. If you ask about CRM strategies, 6 months ago, a lot of people would go and look at technology as it's kind of good, edgy thing, but it's not really a must-have. Now it's one of those things. If you don't have, you don't exist in a business. We know that some of these, verticals are kind of developing and others are just falling apart. But the reality is, with the uncertainty of how this whole thing is gonna, end, in which format, is it a year from now, or we're talking 18 months, and to what extent this new normal is kind of gonna, change the environment where we live and work for that matter. I think we all are just shooting in the dark and hoping to land it right? So there are some very basic things I think we can all agree on make sense. I think the decision, and we'll go back to it, I think, of sending everybody to work from home was kind of one of those, we don't have a choice. We need people to work and they can be in the office. The rest of it, I feel it's like, get your best, and your guess is really as good as everyone else's. As you're figuring out the new normal. Let me pause here. I'm sure the team have a better perspective as well.
Yeah, so Jennifer, let's go to you. What does the new normal mean? That's a question that people want to know. What is the new normal? How would you describe the new normal?
Thinking about it from a career and leadership perspective, I'll share this, a personal sort of insight for me that maybe will resonate with some people in the audience. When we first started using the term new normal, I thought of it as happening to me, something that is going to happen to me. And more recently, I've had a bit of a shift in mindset that in some ways, the new normal is being catalyzed by COVID and the pandemic and shutdowns and all of these things that are very challenging and stressful. But the new normal is going to be a reflection of our expectations and what we bring into our future. So, for example, all the change, COVID has impacted all pillars of our lives: finance, family, employment. Such dramatic change shifts values. Many of us have realized a shift in our personal priorities. we're going to bring those shifts and priorities to the workplace and create that new normal. Pandemics, like you said, Mo, organizations were forced to shift very quickly. And many organizations have shifted focus to people, agility, digital connectivity, communications. The expectations now that we have of employers to sustain that focus on people and agility is going to create that new normal. So I'm trying to say, look, this isn't happening to me, although it still feels like it is a bit, but we are all part of creating it. And to me, there's an optimism in that I want to invite people to, when you're feeling at your worst, that makes sense.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. I like the way you see new normal as a new focus on people and agility. So that's one perspective of looking at what the new normal means, where organization is shifting. And it'll be interesting to see maybe in this conversation or another conversation, whether how temporary or how sustainable that's going to be down the road. That's a whole different, kettle of fish. For you, Maria, what does the new normal mean?
It has been a pause and a reset of values. And then there's significant value in actually finding the power that I have within me to cultivate the future that I want to have for myself and my family. And so I really take a look at it from an advantageous perspective, to be honest with you. I've now actually had time to pause and reflect on what I have loved about my life, what I maybe want to change, how my children are, what's important to them, how I see my role as a mom, how I see my role as an employee, how much time do I want to give to a new employer, what's important in my new employment opportunities. And I've discovered some things about myself that I really want to align myself with organizations that have very strong cultural values similar to mine. Strong cultural diversity, strong female leadership. I just really think that this is an amazing time for us to harness our own power from within and really cultivate the future that we would actually like. I don't see it as a detriment, to be honest with you. Yes, there is illness and tragedy that is happening, and I don't mean to discount that. But if you are able to actually look within yourself from an internalized perspective, you can have some good come out of this.
Awesome. Thanks. I love that. And I love that how you all bring what the new normal means to you at the moment. I suppose I had a very big shift. Earlier this week, I was responding to an email, and usually I would say, nice to e-meet you. So someone introduces me to someone and I'll say, oh, nice to e-meet you. And I just said, nice to meet you, because we're doing everything online. And, or I'm responding to someone, I'll say, oh, I'll see you tomorrow. And I'll see you tomorrow automatically means we're going to be seen online. It's not about, oh, we're going to see in person. And the world of video conferencing is an example of the new normal. That's normal. And, the whole remote working was for a select few and for the people who were privileged to be able to work from home, organizations who had that capacity. Now, the new normal is remote working. So there's so many aspects to what the new normal means, and, we could go on about that. I want to get right next into one of the big questions we had, and this was around career. And, it's been a tough market right now. While some people may be finding jobs, it's very rare. A lot of people have gone through layoffs. People have lost their jobs as a result of COVID. And then you look at where some people were already even struggling to get a job, maybe because they were newly migrated into the country and did not have, in quotes, the Canadian experience, or that person that may be feeling that they're experiencing ageism because they're told they're too young, or they feel that, they have too much experience and they're much older. So it's really a struggle. My first question goes to Maria. What practical steps can people begin to take right now to increase their chances and position themselves to find a job in this market, or even restart their career? It's tough.
I have actually lived it, and I'm living it right now. And so I want to encourage people and remind them of a couple of things first. That was not your last job, and you did amazing things. You will do amazing things again. I promise you this. But when it comes to the actual hardcore work, what you want to do is make sure that you align your CV to the job descriptions as you are applying to them. And so this is a hard strategy. It's something that you actually have to learn. It's a bit of a process. But when you do apply online, you should study the job description and incorporate keywords and phrases into your CV in order to be noticed and recognized by an AI function of the recruiter's system, ATS, applicant tracking system. The more matches you actually have with the job description, the higher match you are to the recruiter, and the chances of landing on their desk as a candidate is greater, just to give you the heads up on that. So that's definitely something that you want to study and learn how to do effectively. I would also definitely align myself with a couple of different recruiters. So I come from a sales background within HR and HR technology. So I want to align myself with a recruiter who works within sales, a recruiter who actually works within HR, and a recruiter who works within technology. So I want to align myself with 2 or 3 different recruiters that have different perspectives and networks actually within, within your aspired job. I'd also encourage yourself to quantify yourself on paper. And that means you need to ask yourself some questions. What metrics did you exceed? How much money did you make a company? How much money did you save a company? This is actually a way for organizations to understand the value that you actually can bring to them. But it also shows your personal accountability and your self-awareness of how you actually contribute from a monetary and performance perspective. I'm also going to say something too about this. I encourage women to apply to more jobs. So women tend to not apply to jobs if they don't meet 100% of the criteria, whereas men only feel that they only need to reach 60% of the criteria there and about in order to apply and qualify for a role. If women actually apply to more roles, the chances of them getting a role, or getting an interview would obviously increase. And I think that's actually quite pivotal right now. It also gives you an understanding of how recruiters interview and how they work. It gives you an idea of how to develop rapport with interviewers themselves, hiring managers, etc. And it'll expand your network of recruiters, to be honest with you. And networking is the next step. You must network your way into your next opportunity. And you also just want to build bridges with other people that, let's say you haven't worked with in the past, but are in your industry. It's just great to actually know more people. They could plug you into different opportunities as they arise. It may not be right for them. It could be right for you. Yesterday, for example, I actually got in touch with a gentleman who's in operations within my industry. We just chatted, and I said, sometimes recruiters send me information about an operations role. Can I suggest, you to this role? And he said, absolutely. And sometimes recruiters feel like I can do sales, but I can't. Can I pass over the information over to you? And I said, absolutely, let's do it.
Okay, awesome. And you raised about 6 practical things that people could be doing. And I want to go next to Mo. What if there's somebody there that is doing all of these 6 practical things? They have tried, they've done all of these things Maria has suggested, which I hope they're all doing. They've applied for like the 301, or over 300 jobs. They've got over 50 interviews and nothing. How do they stay resilient, and what do they need to do next?
Yeah, good points. I think there's a difference between having a strategy and for the strategy to work and respond the way you would expect it to. I think we can all agree on that. You come, you're prepared, you hopefully do all the steps you're supposed to, and yet somehow it may still not pan out, or you're not getting the signs and feedback you're hoping to get. I think, let me just kind of lay the lay of the land, right? So first of all, I think Maria touched on a very good point around the idea of remote, and I see some comments touching on that as well. Here's one thing as a silver lining to this crisis: it definitely leveled the playfield in terms of everybody is on the same position as far as remote work goes. It used to be some of us are, some of us are not. And so the notion of crossing the border between working remotely and working within an office is to kind of create an additional barrier. And so that's one. Second is there's no business or company today who builds a strategy to fire people. So back to Maria's point about this is not personal, you haven't done anything wrong, this is not your fault. This point cannot be emphasized well enough, right? There's no company that is in the business of firing. So you have to appreciate the businesses that are kind of getting into the struggle of reacting to this crisis, figuring out how they can continue to raise up their business profile, et cetera. And we talked about a little bit of shift, which a lot of companies are doing, which takes me to my third point about every company right now that is not doing well is trying to figure out how can they do well very, very fast. And there are investment requirements, obviously, and people are buying technology and trying to shift their customer engagements, go-to-market strategies, et cetera. But guess what they also need? They need people. And so that is kind of the lay of the land in terms of where the industries are. Some businesses are slower than others, but the reality is every business is trying to go back into the revenue stream, flowing as fast as they can. And that includes hiring the right people and making sure they are in. Now, here's the reality check. The pile has become bigger. So if there were 1,000 applicants, I can't remember the exact statistics on this, but there used to be kind of a 3-digit or a 4 digits for that matter, applicants per job. Now we are talking about 5, 6 digits per job. So if you were one of 1,000, now you could be one of the 20,000, one of 50,000, and obviously that changes based on industry and role and levels. So this is where Maria's advice matters. How can you differentiate yourself? Candidly, some of it is very basic and somewhat tactical and mechanical. Most companies by now, if they're not, they're catching up. They're using this applicant tracking system, ATS. It is really this basic. It's gonna pick up the words that it thinks matter most of the job. So you can be the superstar that business is eagerly looking to find. If you are not properly positioning your resume to match what the job description says, unfortunately, you're gonna be at the bottom of the pile. You're not even gonna get to the interview stage, not because anybody's doing anything bad, but because the system is not picking you up. So if you are not working on that right now and looking for a job, and to your point, you're in that situation of the 300 applicants, et cetera, fix that. Make sure your wording, and candidly, some of it sometimes actually is ridiculous, is down to the comma and line you use that could, ignore or use a word properly. So that's one kind of very tactical thing. Understand, look up ATS, and you're gonna find a ton of ways to, properly position. So none of this is about makeup. This is about properly position yourself in resume to go on the top of the pile. Because here's the other thing, and never give up. I love the comment that was just made up. If anything, just know that there are businesses who are desperate to get the right people, and we'll talk about reskill. We'll talk about making sure you're kind of, if you're not doing this, and I saw a person talking about going through different industries and trying to expand their knowledge, I want to bring this back to our core industry and technology. I think a lot of what we said is, we were talking about AI a few months ago, which seems like a few years ago. AI is going to kind of replace about 68 million jobs globally. And that sounds just scary. If anything, this is going to accelerate a lot of that. And don't think of this as job loss, but it's also a lot of job creation. There's a change of leveling. So if you are now out of a job, and obviously the first question or the first advice is go find one ASAP. And, hence Maria's and everybody's tips to do that. Don't give up because somebody is eagerly looking for you, but also use the opportunity to look at the right skills you could get that will get you that stamina from a career perspective for the next 10, 15 years to go. So just going to pause here, but I hope this answers some of your questions and to the point that you're looking for, Yvonne.
Yes, it does. It does. And, and even thanks for some of the feedback there that we're getting is sometimes you just have to keep on going. And thank you for, repeating the point from Maria is really they're using all kinds of technologies like AI and ATS to find people. So especially for immigrants, it's important that you change your credentials to match how wherever you are in a certain country, the same terminologies and words, because that's something that usually helps, them not to qualify to the next stage. So be very mindful of the words. And Jennifer, how would you say for people internally within an organization, how can leaders help them with their careers in a time like this? So where it seems that it's flat, everything is stalled, how can leaders help people on their teams with their own careers during times like this?
Great question. And I think I would speak to the real importance of helping individuals, employees, people on teams to remain motivated and to continue to focus on career building versus feeling that career progression is on pause. So, many leaders and people kind of move to tactical in times of change and crisis, and lots of organizations move to tactical early in the pandemic. But we're starting to adopt new ways of doing things. And so teams can lose motivation if we also lose that long-term perspective, especially when long-term is ambiguous or uncertain. So here's the tip, I would say, is find ways to motivate and continue career progression by creating opportunities to solve problems that really matter to the business. So carve out the time in the calendar to make sure we're not all tactical, but if there is something we're solving in the organization that will expose you or your team to experimentation, to solution building, basically it builds our adaptability and it keeps us visible in the organization. And bottom line, employees who get to display adaptability to change tend to have more advantages in career opportunities internally. Employers are seeking employees with high adaptability due to positive outcomes such as work performance, ability to handle stress. And those sort of meaningful projects and organizations can also expose you to other functions and teams, which creates that internal networking capability. So that would be my tip, is carve out time to create opportunity to experiment and solve future-focused problems that really matter to the organization.
Okay, thanks for that. While we're still on the subject of leadership, let's stay there for a second, and let's take it also a little bit into well-being. Okay. So staying with you, Jennifer, how can employers or leaders or managers help break down that stigma of mental health with regards to remote work or even fostering a healthy work environment? Because that's something that is real. I don't know about you on social media, but everybody's pushing mental wellness. You're seeing the push-ups, bringing more awareness to it. There's been an increase and an uptake where people are talking about the impact of wellness. So what can leaders and employers start to do to support the mental well-being of employees?
Happy to talk about this and happy for other thoughts. Just for everyone on this call who's global, Barrett Value Center through April and May did a global COVID culture assessment and looked at what's happening to employees and organizations. And there's many positive impacts, but just to underscore the importance of mental health, there were some significant negatives, including an increased feeling of isolation amongst employees, stress, and of course, anxiety. So first of all, just know it's there. This exists. It's not something we're going to be able to move away from. My biggest recommendation is model the behavior you want to enable in other people. We can appropriately demonstrate our own vulnerability by demonstrating comfort in revealing our own points of stress and anxiety, demonstrating comfort in confiding in people and requesting help. This makes it safe for others to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
I think as leaders, we need to assume positive intent, be charitable when we're interpreting people's behaviors in time of stress. Recognize that nobody is thriving right now, and that's okay. You know, and if it looks like someone is thriving, this could actually be a bit of a survival response, kind of that fight response to where we become overproductive or we move into hyper performance, which in itself is not sustainable. 2 quick points. Because we don't have the benefit of face-to-face, I think it's important to be explicit in asking others how they feel. And if we're uncomfortable with the word feel, then what they're thinking. Like you might pointedly look into the camera and say, Mo, I can't see your face right now, you're off video, but what are you thinking or how are you feeling right now? Most people appreciate that level of personal interest. They recognize the natural barriers that come from a remote team. Lastly, know your mental health resources. If you are in an organization, what does your EAP provide? How do you contact them? Access them yourself. See what it's like to try to access supports through benefit plan or through EAP. And for leaders who are trying to show up for their teams every day, create your own support network. Know who you can call when you are about to pop or you feel low or unfocused, and enlist these sort of friends to pick you up or to talk you through. Pick people who are practical and realistically optimistic, because again, they can support you with that optimism so you can show up for your team in as positive a way as possible.
Yeah.
Did that get to?
For sure, love that. And while still on the subject of leadership, I want to take this to you more, very briefly, is how can leaders support through a time of uncertainty and ambiguity? Because right now it's difficult to plan 1 year ahead when we're talking about the second wave. So how you don't even know what's going to happen in 3 months' time, and there's so much uncertainty and ambiguity. So what can leaders do? What can people expect their leaders to do, and what can leaders do?
I think this takes me back a little bit to our conversation around values. I think one aspect that Jennifer a little bit touched on is just keeping it real. The idea of to stop pretending. A lot of us, over the last few months, became a lot more comfortable with having kids or pets on camera, or not having people on camera because they don't feel like it anymore. I think the notion, again, this intrinsic optimism that we all had about this, hopefully everybody's kind of back to a reality of this is real. This isn't one of those things that's going to pass by. We need to understand how it's going to impact us. And I don't know that anybody has the answers. And so to your point, as a leader, you are to role model what you practice what you preach kind of things around. Show your team how you are expecting them to behave by behaving in the same fashion yourself. That's the first thing. And I think candidly, we can hope into a lot of topics. One of them, and the core to me, is just stopping to pretend that everything is okay and that the crisis is just a social opening of a conversation, and then we move on, and then we keep expectations where they are, knowing that people struggle to even make the day last without losing their mind because their kids are in the house running everywhere, etc. So I think the notion of empathy, the notion of compassion, the notion of understanding and indulgence in general, really the need for that in leadership has really spiked in terms of what we see as a difference a year or two from now when all of this hopefully is over. That to me, that's kind of where the core is the difference will be how did leader react from those aspects versus just pretending that nothing is happening. Let's move on and continue business as usual.
Yeah. And one of the questions that I'm going to ask, and just because I know a lot of our community may come from the change space and, you know, leading and managing change, and we did receive a few questions around there. So this can go to Jennifer or Maria. What's the value of even change management now and change leadership across board in organization? Is that really a skill that people are looking at and taking on board? And our organizations recognizing it and wanting to, you know, more effectively lead and manage change?
Go ahead, Maria.
Actually, this is your space, Jennifer. I wouldn't do it justice. I'm being honest. Please.
Yeah.
No, I think part of the question here is the importance of change management leadership and the competencies and skills related to it. And if I could, so much of change management leadership requires some of the other key skills that I think organizations are looking for right now, which include adaptability, agility, being able to provide direction and good communication, being innovative, ingenuity, collaboration. I think it's almost as if change management, I think, is part of the new norm. It's less of a term on itself or a specific skill set, and it's becoming something that we all need to be very comfortable with, capable in leading through, capable in supporting through, because here's the deal, we're not slowing down. Like, yes, this pandemic happened, but it's not as if one day it will be over and change will slow again. We're still in that industrial revolution, fourth industrial, we're still picking up speed. Change anywhere in your resume, in your career, where you can demonstrate your ability to lead through change, adapt through change, contribute through change, I think is a big asset. And in interviews and in networking, talking comfortably about influencing change, I believe is a good place to go.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, change leadership is the new normal.
Yeah.
So we're quite ambitious with some of the questions that we were going to get through today. So I'm going to start to go into almost like a rapid fire round with all of our panelists and just get them to, you know, briefly give us those 30-second, 1-minute answers that I'm sure everybody's going to want to go deeply into. But let's start with Mo. Mo, on the subject of networking and remote working, that's your space, you know, where before networking and relationship building was all traditional, team building, we knew it, in-person meetings and events. With the pandemic and social distancing, which is our new normal, how can you effectively network, both internally and externally, while still working remotely or social distances? How do you build those genuine, authentic virtual relationships? So quick fire round to you, Mo.
Good question. So again, making it practical, use the tools that you have to collaborate. Video is a huge differentiator. I think we can all appreciate that. Don't limit yourself to your geographical vicinities. Good to see some global audience today. I would argue, again, the farther you can reach, that's use the silver lining of all this, right? Everybody's on the same place now. Everybody's working remotely. So this is a good place to start in terms of reaching out. And here's the deal. Network begins with the trigger of you asking. Don't hesitate to ask people. Reach out. And I think those 3 points would go a long way in terms of just building your network in the current environment.
Awesome. And Maria, what about you? How can one more effectively network in the new virtual world?
I think that it's really important to align yourself with people and choose your certain ways. One, it's quality, the type of work that you're actually doing and building those personal relationships with those people that you're working alongside. Taking the time to actually getting to know them. To be honest with you, the most point, just reach out, right? Have the conversation. Hey, how's your day going? I've actually led cross-functional teams across the globe. And so I've had to challenge myself and how do I get to know this person better? And so reaching out from a business platform is important. But maintaining touch on a personal level is also key, right? So sending them that little notice, that little email or that little message like, hey, how's your day going? I was thinking about you. I know that you like souffles. I saw this amazing recipe. Here you go, right? Networking is not just done for business purposes. Networking is actually done so that you can create a team that aspires towards the same goals, right? And actually reaches the same goals, and you're there to develop trust and rapport with the people that you're working with. It can't just be such a cold, tactical relationship. So I'm a very personable person, and this is how I approach things.
I love that. I love the points where it's just sometimes that little reaching out. I saw this recipe that I think you might like. Here, share it, you know. And there's that value in I can't pronounce the word, reciprocity, where people now want to do things for you. And people have mistaken networking to be, oh, you meet in person and you have to exchange business cards and they have to see you face to face. I also like what Mo said. Mo said, we're all remote working right now. So we're all on video call. So it's a level playing field. It's not like previously where people who work from home had some type of disadvantage to people who were in the office. Now we're all faced with the same situation. But there might be that introverted person or extroverted person that can easily come on video, not want to come on video. So what would your quick tip be, Jennifer, for that introverted versus extroverted person in terms of how they network more effectively in this new normal?
Oh gosh. Okay, a couple things. So one, I'll give you two, quick fire.
Yeah,
whether you're networking or dealing with internal meetings, fast and frequent. So more frequent, shorter connections build trust and relationship better than less frequent, longer connections. So imagine yourself asking for 10 minutes with someone and then agreeing that you'll connect again to finish the conversation. That can be more comfortable for the introvert and create more of a conversational flow versus one longer meeting. And I would say the same internally. Connecting with our people, our colleagues, and our peers once a week for an hour is less effective these days than 4 15-minute conversations.
Okay.
Other tip, just very quickly, is pick up the phone. We've forgotten to pick up the phone. Pick up the phone and call. You don't have to be on screen all the time. It's an intimate conversation. We know the person on the other end isn't multitasking. It can be a nice way to connect, especially if you're zoomed out, you're tired of that video.
Awesome.
Like having a bad hair day.
Thanks.
Texting also works.
Yeah.
Some people text, so texting also works, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to go very quickly, again, still in our rapid fire round, just so that we can get in a few things. I'm looking at the clock. Future of work. You know, future of work as we know it has been accelerated. I'm sure everybody is hearing the future of work, which is essentially the new way in which we work, what tools we work with, where we work, the changing types of jobs, all being shaped and driven by advancing technologies like AI, robotics, and now accelerated and here now by virtue of the pandemic. So very quickly, starting with Mo, what would you say are the top competencies and skills for this new normal and this new world and this new future of work? Top three, maybe your top 3 skills.
Oh, great. No pressure. So I'm going to talk about the hard skills, right? So I think we all got the word, you know, emotional intelligence, empathy, all that kind of stuff. I don't know that we need to touch on that. I think for me, if you look at, again, the industries, understand data, how can data help you? So if you're in any job today and you don't have line of sight to data, insights, understanding that, or you don't have that skill, go work on it. so to me, that's the key word is how do you use data in your job? Are you using it or not? Do you have line of sight to it? The second I would go is the notion of leveraging implement and embrace in technologies. So think of automations, robotic process automation, the notion of AI, the virtualization of some of the tasks, etc. So, you know, again, especially now if you're in the shift of the industries, so you have nothing to lose, go embrace it. Understand how that could be a tool for you versus a tool against you. To me, that's the second thing to go after.
Thank you for that. And Maria, what would you say would be the top 2-3 competencies, you know, somebody needs to get on with right now for the new normal?
I think that Mo definitely touched upon it. It's data analytics, it's robotics, AI, e-commerce and e-marketing are going to be extremely popular going forward. You know, that's definitely a trend there. The top trend though also too is being open to task-based project work and contract work. And so you may have to take a contract role before you end up finding yourself a full-time position, or you may transition into a full-time role, but just be open to opportunities when they present themselves. Yeah,
and thank you for bringing up the contract contingent workforce, because that's where there's a trend in which it's going upward. So yes, it feels as if they're taking more full-timers, but there's also a trend in contingent staff. Jennifer, for you, what would be the top competencies for the new normal?
So I'm going to underscore digital fluency, and then I think I'm going to go on a tangent and talk about communication, but more specifically, it goes to what Mo was saying about being able to communicate empathy, being able to inspire people, build resilience, being able to stay future focused. So just really good competence in how you influence, inspire, and empower people through this time.
Yeah, love that, you know, and even when you look at some of the critical skills from the WE Forum, it's really about critical skills being important. So critical skills, transferable skills that can take across board and use differently in any role is very important. Critical skills, you know, would be my top for any. I'm going to take only one question, and looking at the questions, well, there are two questions that we don't have. And it says, I'm going to take David's one, because David's one is one that he also submitted. I'm an older individual, 60 plus, who has been looking for another job for 18 months. My background is supply chain, 20 plus years in manufacturing world. How do I overcome the perception that I am too old? I'm going to retire in a few years. I'm not looking to retire for a few years, and I'm overqualified for many roles. And I am not up to date in new technologies. That's what they feel. He's not saying it. That's what they might feel. So who wants to take that one and answer very quickly in like 30 seconds?
So many. Can I answer this one, guys?
Yes.
So many things that David can be doing. Absolutely. David, use your network, use LinkedIn, use your friends, use your connections actually within the space. If you feel like you are not up to date actually with the technology, there are many organizations that have not gone robotic or gone on to an automated system yet. Target those areas, target those companies, and actually make personal contact with people in operations or supply chain themselves. If you are a supply chain leader, understand that you actually have a lot of ability to work on special projects. Given the scope right now, supply chain is red hot in the marketplace. Supply chain is falling down all kinds within all different organizations, unfortunately. So they need people with practical experience such as yourself, but just be open to working on a contract or a special project, or as an assistant to someone who's actually leading supply chain transformation. That was quick.
That was quick. That was really good. One other question that I want to send to the panel is, and we got that, was how do you build trust in a time like this? How do you build trust, whether as a new employee, or how do you build trust, you know, with other people when you're not face to face? Who wants to take that?
Jennifer.
That's a tough one. Mo, please, you're a leader within an organization. I
have a very different perspective on this. I don't think we are, like, we're still human beings, let's be real, right? So again, the we just receive now the information and the relationship differently. So you still build trust doing exactly what you would do in a face-to-face environment. The difference now is that it's being received through technology. Again, I would say now it's actually going to be probably easier, for lack of a better word, because we are leveling the playing field on a lot of aspects of, everybody's remote. There's no differentiation. But the core aspects of building trust hasn't changed. It's about being genuine, showing true interest into people's values and people's interests. It's the same actual values you would have had to use before that you could do now. To me, it just the key takeaway from this is don't look at this shift toward a more remote as suddenly a barrier to be successful, whether from a career perspective and for that matter, even a personal perspective. If you look at it and start trying to, obviously you have to make a lot of adjustments, but in reality, this also, and candidly, again, a lot of us have been doing this for 10 plus years, i.e. working remotely exclusively and not having, or having very limited face-to-face interactions. This isn't a land where we as humans have not landed yet. So the notion though is how, again, it goes back to my point, reach out, use technology properly, show genuine interest in people's, conversations and comments. I think that goes a long way. I don't think, it's not like we suddenly stopped becoming human beings, and building trust now requires a new science that we haven't known before.
Yeah, love that. What I'm going to have to round up now. I want to be respectful of people's time, and just to round up, this is 10 seconds, 15 seconds, very quickly to our panel. If you had a crystal ball and you could have seen that this pandemic was coming,
oh gosh,
you saw it and you could see all what we're seeing now, what would you have done differently with the benefit of a crystal ball? Starting with you, Jennifer.
I would have stayed more attuned to software and apps that enable me to deliver virtually and globally. A lot of our work was in person. I loved it, but just because I loved it doesn't mean that it's what's needed in the future. So again, it's just staying attuned to technology.
Okay, awesome. And for you, Maria, what would you have done differently with the crystal ball?
Stock in Amazon and Uber.
Well done.
Truthfully,
And for you, Mo, what would you have done differently?
I would have built a daycare for my kids to stay in. You started off with the kids and you're ending with the kids, so we can see that that's top of mind for you. It has really changed your life. You know what, you guys have really been great, and our audience has been awesome. I've loved all the engagement and all of the questions and the comments that are coming. If there was something that you feel we did not answer and you really wanted answered, please by all means drop us an email, info@thechangeleadership.com. I will share it with the panelists and we will answer you directly. I promise you that. But you've all been great. Please stay connected. You're on our mailing list. If you have ideas for this type of discussion, if you'd like to see more of these conversations, please say so, tell us, and we will have this type of webinars. It's our first webinar because we've done pre-recorded webcasts. This is our first live one, and we are going to be doing master classes, so look out for that. For us at the Change Leadership, we're having to pivot now to do things differently and move more of our events virtually. So look out, we will be having our next master class coming up very soon. We have 2, so stay tuned. So thank you very much, everybody, and have yourself a nice afternoon. Thanks, everyone, again. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for generosity. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.